All right, Mr. Andrew, appreciate you hopping on, brother.
Dude, happy to do it, man. It's
Thank you,
been
man.
a long time coming. It's been cool seeing all the different people that have come out and sit in these chairs with you.
Well, thankful to you for
Dude,
letting us, me even do it in the first place.
for sure.
Little background, Andrew. I mean, I want you to say it.
Yeah.
Like whole background. Without Andrew, this podcast would not be possible. So, shout out to him in the first
That's
place.
a lot of credit. I didn't even know you were doing it till I think you'd already filmed a few, but dude, we love it. Yeah, so me personally, I had never worked in golf before I got here, and here is Dobson Ranch in Mesa. It's been almost 6 years since we took over managing this golf course for the city of Mesa. Um, and it was like a super long process. I wasn't a part of the company at the time. The company's Paradigm Golf Group. And basically, I was working in San Diego where I had gone to college, and with the municipality, if nobody ever is like familiar with this, I only know about it because of this process. Anything they do, so like building a building, renovating something, managing a city property, the municipalities are obligated to like make it a public bid. So to get this contract, like us and Troon and a bunch of other companies all put in proposals, and then there was like 3 or 4 rounds of like city council meetings, presentations, then they whittled it down piece by piece, and ultimately they chose us. And then that was when they called me and said, hey, we actually got the contract, do you want your job? And the rest is history. We showed
Wow.
up here. So yeah, man, 6 years later, I've done everything on this place except ride a mower probably. And I don't know if that would be a great thing if you have me on maintenance, so we'll stay away from that one.
We need that next.
But dude, it's been an absolute blast. And I never would have thought I would learn so much about so many things. So
I want to dive deeper into that
yeah,
too. I know the first time we connected, I got Jake Reef.
I like know the name,
Okay,
and I
he's
feel bad because I
yeah,
probably would know him if I saw him,
yeah.
but I don't know that Jake and I have even interacted that
Oh,
much.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, that's funny. Yeah, he was like, I was like, cause I had like a small following, still whatever. But it's I was
because
like,
I
is
was
there?
doing your like swing things, right? Doing your
Yeah,
videos
yeah. The
talking about
swing.
people's swings, dude.
Yeah,
Those
I
videos are great.
appreciate it. I try to having fun. And I was like, what's the one course all the creators are at that just looks fun, looks sick, like
Hmm.
great range, everything. And he's like, oh yeah, you should talk to Andrew. And so I emailed you,
Yeah,
and then I was like, I didn't get a response. I was like, oh, he's super busy. And then I did it again. I was like, oh, I'll just fire off one more. You were gracious enough to
dude.
invite me in,
Yeah.
and I'm eternally grateful for that. So
No, man. I
it's
could ultimately regret this when your podcast blows up someday if people come back to watch this one, but that is like I'm the guy. I've got like 500 unread text messages, like thousands of unread emails, and like I'm working on it. I have to be better. And lately, I've like been able to zero inboxes out and stuff, but the text one is hard. I actually prefer like voicemail, so I tell people if you really need me, call me, leave me a voicemail.
totally.
If you text me or email me and you don't get me, just keep going because eventually I will either say no if I really can't respond or don't care or can't do it or whatever it is. Otherwise, it's just a matter of like get yourself to the top and
Yeah.
get me when I actually sit down to go through stuff. And that's how like
Well,
half the people here got their jobs.
yep.
They've applied, and I would tell them, come back as much as you want to check in because it happens so fast when we need the help. And so
Yeah.
the ones that usually follow up the most are the ones that end up they catch me at the right place, right time. We interview. If they're great, I move fast. We hire them, and like the rest is it.
Yep. Well, it's a priority thing too, right? Like in my case, it's like who's this random kid emailing me? Like you're like it's not like the bottom of the barrel priority wise,
Totally.
and you're still gracious enough, and Joe and everyone here, like you guys
Yeah.
have been amazing. So,
Yeah. For sure, man. But
um, you personally though, I know one of the things we first bonded over was our love for entrepreneurship
dude, yeah.
and Hermosi.
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's your background with that? Like, what's your, how did you first get into it? And I guess what's your 10-year goal with it? Is it to start your own golf business or course or run this or what, you know, from start to
Totally.
finish? What does that look like?
I've been doing a ton of thinking about that longer time horizon probably the last I don't know, probably like 3 months, like since we kind of met. He actually just walked by up there, but our CEO Joe is out here today, and he lives out this way too, so we're here all the time. Um, my real like the background even preceding getting this job, I went to school at San Diego State. I thought my entire life I was just going to be a firefighter because nobody hates firefighters. It's super prestigious thing. You get paid really good in most places as a firefighter. Retirement's sick. All my family did it. I was like, this is super easy. I don't even need this degree, but I'll get one just cause it helps. And then I graduated, did an EMT course, worked for a while on an ambulance, and was like, dude, I really don't know if I want to keep doing the medical side. And there's a whole thing there about how it's changed since my family did it
Huh.
back in the day and like to now. And it's really great because like buildings that are new, their fire suppression is awesome. So like the older days of like literal buildings on fire running in, or it's so like rare now that they have to like streamline stuff. So like fire departments now have ambulance units in them. All of the engines usually have like a medic and everyone else is an EMT. Like, so that's why most of their calls now are medical. Super important. Their response times are great. But I just had that epiphany of like, all right, I'm an EMT. I work for a large ambulance company. I make like 12 bucks an hour. I'm going to go spend thousands of dollars, go to medic school, probably have to be on an ambulance again while I wait for a firefighter job. And I'll only be making $15 an hour. And I didn't love it. And so I just said, dude, I actually left that, went back to an old college job. It was an ice cream sandwich place on the beach.
Let's go.
Yeah, and it was there that I really personally had the difference because when I worked there in college, I was like not a great employee. I just figured out like kind of like Hormozy talks about gains a lot. I learned then that when I was hungover or tired and like didn't want to talk to customers, nobody ever took out the trash or like restocked things. So I was like, dude, I could just do this for a few hours, and the owners liked that I did it, and it made me seem good. So I understood the idea of like creating value a little bit,
Yeah.
but in that case, I was doing it to like avoid getting in trouble.
Right.
And so when I went back, that same place actually like took me back, and they had just laid off a GM, and they said we can't install you like straight away as a GM, but if you crush it for a month or two, we'll start teaching you more. And the first thing they gave me was training and interviewing. So that was really they had a really great training system that they had drawn up. They were like, we just don't have time. We're trying to grow the business. We can't work here all the time and do these things. We've never found someone that likes it.
Yeah.
So all I heard was, if you can fix this for me, you'll be invaluable. I was like, all right. And I ended up really enjoying the personal development side of it. And so being able to like hire people, hand pick a team, it was a game of like, how do I motivate these college kids that I was just like them a year ago? They
Totally.
just want to have fun and party, and this is a means to an end. And so how do you get someone excited about like serving ice cream sandwiches
Yeah.
and all of that stuff? But it ended up being a really fun like playground to learn on. And then, they taught me how to like order product. They taught me how to take inventory of different things. I pretty much ended up doing everything at that place except for like scheduling and like the HR onboarding stuff. So as far as like keeping the wheels turning day to day, that was pretty much everything I learned. So like a big ops focus. And through that, and I referenced him, Joe, he's actually were my wife's stepdad. So at the time we were dating, so when they would visit, he would just sit there and he said he would watch me like run around and like give direction and do all these things. And he's like, that's how the job offer came up, but it was in limbo till we got the contract. So
Right.
yeah, it was all pretty fast, but even before this came up, he started, recommending different books. I think the first one I actually read was Everyone Communicates, Few Connect by John Maxwell.
I need to read.
And
Yeah.
it was a great one, and read that one cover to cover. And then he just kept feeding me, and then I started looking for more. And that was, I think, when once the fire of like personal development, wanting to learn and, staying curious kind of starts, it's pretty hard to put it out.
It's like
So,
a drug.
dude, it
It's
is.
it. Yeah. Once you go to that, yeah, it really
Yeah.
is. It's nuts. What's your biggest like? What have you found is your biggest motivator for it? Like, is it you don't get immersed in that world unless you're obviously interested in it. But is it
Totally.
being totally transparent, the money or the freedom that it brings, or just the helping other people financially and intellectually through conversations or giving back? Like, do you have a north star that kind of just continues you to keep going and going?
Totally. So I'm going to talk about another book. There's a really short book. It's called Life Word. And it's been so long since I read it, but basically a bunch of us got off like a free copy of it, and they were like, hey, first one to read it gets a prize. And I read it, but the summary was that it talks about that type of thing, right? Like what actually gives you direction, like what are your real motivators. And the word that I landed on was like guidance. And I thought it was a pretty good word in the sense that it was kind of all encompassing, right? I think there have been different seasons where sometimes I would have said, hey man, I just want to help people, right? That was the firefighter phase. Well, I never stopped wanting to help people, but I was like, shoot, I went from like this perfect, nobody ever hates a firefighter. It's very clear you help people. Like, how do I translate that to an ice cream shop or a golf course? And through training and onboarding and hiring, something I try to share with everybody we bring on our teams is like, look, I don't expect anybody to make golf or golf management like a career. Historically, it pays terribly anyways. So like, I get that. So all I ask for and all I really want for anyone that joins our team is like, if I can take you and you give me 3 months, 6 months, a year, however long you're in college, whatever the time frame is, if you can tell me what something is you want to get better at, like you want to get better at public speaking, you want to learn sales, you want to be an entrepreneur yourself, we can try and put you in a position on our team so you can at least work on that skill so you hopefully leave better than you came in. So I would definitely say like giving people their at bats, because that's been such a big thing. People taking chances on me, letting me fail forward and all that. And then there's the other side of it for sure, which is like, I mean, this place and this industry and everything in business really just seems like a game. And like, how can you win? How can you do better? How can you break things and fix them better? And all that stuff. Like, that's what keeps me really engaged. And I would say that like helping people, I mean, it's going to sound super cliche, but like this golf course is the first municipal golf course that our company has really taken on. And like what we have today was the dream we kind of pitched. Like people in the community that don't golf that come get food. Or we have the mini golf course now where kids are free all day, every day. We have the driving range where one bay could be a guy that's 80 years old and just can't play on the golf course anymore. The next bay is a bunch of college people on dates. The next one is a whole family. Like, you have so much of that diversity that comes through here. But to just know that like everybody in this HOA, everyone in this city,
So sick.
just has a spot to come and get introduced to golf. And I mean, shoot, there's like 300 golf courses in the Phoenix area, so we know there's more than enough to go around. But if we can really keep bringing people to the game, yeah, it's awesome.
And just a testament to you and this course. Like we were talking about this before we hopped on, but there's like you said, 300 courses here in Phoenix. Dobson, love Dobson. It's not Whisper Rock, right?
Not even close, and we
But
know that.
right. But with that said, because you guys have that attitude of welcoming creators or giving away free rounds or kids play free or now I didn't even know about it, but even with your own staff training and not just hey you gotta better do this with this SOP with like you're actually letting them like helping them mold to where they want to be in life. Like because you guys are giving away so much and just being like really community driven, now you've exploded and look, yeah, you guys are popped off like you just said.
Hmm.
How many tee times do you
Yeah, yeah.
average a
So
day?
we were talking about it before. We do about 90,000 rounds a year, and that's just as like a single 18-hole course. That does include like 9-hole play off the back nine. And that's actually 2 years ago. It doesn't sound like a lot. Like if you're not an intense golfer, you may not quite understand the gravity of this. But like when we took over, the old management group used to do like 7 minutes between a group, which is like insanely fast, really hard to manage pace of play. And pace of play is like every golfer's number one biggest concern, right? Course conditions and pace of play are pretty much at the top of everyone's list. This place had a terrible reputation, and frankly, it's funny because like depending on who you ask, we still do. Everyone says always and all this stuff. Like since we've been here, we take such a proactive approach. We really rarely get a day that touches 5 hours, and I'm talking about from the moment you hit your first shot till you finish on 18. So there's a lot of semantics there, but like we went from 7 minute intervals to 8 minutes in the beginning, and then about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we switched it to 9 again. And so the math is about we lost like 40 or 50 slots for individuals on a given day by going from 8 to 9 minutes, and we still have seen significant growth in rounds played, or it's at least stayed the same over the last couple years since that change. We didn't have to jack the prices a lot. I think
Yeah.
right now, Mesa resident, the most they play during like our peak time is $69 to take a cart and go play 18 holes. You're good, man. Either
Oh
way.
yeah.
Uh, and I don't even think cause yeah, man, some of these places like 300-400 bucks. Like it's wild.
Yeah. With the cart,
Yeah,
69 bucks
with
a
a
cart.
cart. So
Damn.
69 bucks with a cart if you live in Maricopa County. So I'll back it up. We have a public rate. I think right now it's like $94 is like the normal rate. 84 if you're from Maricopa County, and 69 if you have a Mesa ID or you get our players card. So yeah, all that stuff. I don't even remember the original question anymore, but yeah, dude, we do a ton of rounds, and somehow our superintendent keeps this place in great shape during this time of year. Dobson Ranch, if you didn't know, used to be a literal cattle ranch. So the Dobson,
Wow.
so like our bar that's back behind me, that was their like ranch house. That's why if you go inside it, like you're in like a living room and then a foyer, and the kitchen was like their helps kitchen.
Wow.
So
I
that
don't
was
know
an
that.
actual house before a bar.
It's crazy how the difference between 1 minute can
Dude,
change so much in
yeah, I would,
intervals.
if you are a golfer or like a fringe golfer, before you tee off the next time, go up and like watch the group that's in the fairway and just see how much can get done in a minute, because it helps immensely with like managing pace. I mean, if we're doing like today, that's what the original question was. We'll do like probably 300 to 320 golfers between 18 holes in the back nine today. So if you think that's, almost 100 tee times that go out, that's almost 100 minutes. Like if you add or take a minute away or whatever it is.
And not to mention the range. You guys have a world class range in
Mm-hmm.
range. It's
Yep.
like top trace. You're like TrackMan on the range, basically.
Yeah.
Um, Having creators, I was here for that Micah Morris event and
Dude.
everything. It was
Yeah, that
just
was
sick.
super fun.
Like the connections you meet, the people you meet, you got the overhead bays instead of like, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
could go play the boulders, but there's no bays. There's no like, it's just not
Yep.
the same experience.
Totally.
So, yeah, it's, yeah. So, okay, so your personal game yourself, do you play often? What does that look
No,
like?
don't play a lot.
Okay.
We joke that like when people talk about being good or not, we put an extra like layer to it. Where being how good or bad you are at golf, we also pair it with like how much you care or practice. Because
Yeah.
there's some people out here every day grinding, still shooting in the 90s, which like, hey, that's okay. That's most people. To get
Yeah.
under 90 or even 70 is wild.
Yeah.
Um, but then you have people that like don't play a lot and can still go shoot that. So that person in our book would be better. Um, I really don't know, man. I haven't played like a full round until like a month or two ago. It was the first time I ever broke 90. I shot like an 86 here. Went and played like in the morning. But other than that, I end up playing like very rarely, normally in scrambles or tournaments, and I spend way more time on the range just because of how like time efficient it is.
Totally.
Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I also don't ever practice, so I would say I'm pretty average. Like I would shoot comfortably in the 90s at most places. If it's a desert golf course, I might lose a lot more balls.
Feel that.
All of my scoring issues are blow up holes for sure. I'm your normal like baseball player convert. I just swing as hard as I can,
That's
you
so
know.
funny. Yeah, I feel that.
But no, it's they also say it's like the worst thing for your golf game is to go work in golf. And so that tends to ring true. It seems like,
That's fair.
yeah,
Bet you get a nice discount though.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
and
bet
and
that's
but
healthy.
but even to that point too, like, and that's where I think there's the difference in that entrepreneurial spirit. Like, if my option was like go play golf here for free in the middle of a day, or it's like get the $200 from filling the tee time, like I'd do that,
Sure.
honestly.
Respect.
But that's
What?
not necessarily. I'd rather go like play 4 holes at the end of the day or something,
Yeah.
or go first thing in the morning. That's usually if I do play a full 18, I'll come out before anybody goes and go play early, so I'm not taking up a spot.
I love that. Well, it sounds too like you're treating the course as if like you own the entire thing.
Totally,
Like you have to like that's the what every I mean as like if you're an owner that's what you want every
totally,
staff member to be like treat like you have 100% equity in the
yeah,
company in the
yeah.
business like
Well, and back to the one of the questions you asked a while ago, like, so what is my 10-year kind of like
yeah
hope or goal?
you're learning so much
For
so like
sure.
what is
It
that
could be to own Paradigm. Like, I don't know where that'll be or when that would be. There's definitely, I look at this like, again, I said a playground earlier, and it really is like I'm in a position, and Alex talks about, a lot of people do that, like, it's one thing to go and say I have no skills and like I want to learn, and typically you got to like do that for free. I was extremely fortunate that in most of my jobs they were willing to pay me to learn these things, because if you can learn to find enough of a pain point for whoever it is you work with or you work for, the same way you find a pain point for a customer if you're in sales, if you can needle that, you can use it to like, hey, if you just take the extra work over the next month or week and you teach me how to do this so you don't have to worry about it again, like that is literally creating value, not from like a consumer side, but like to your boss
Yep.
or to the business owner. And so I always joke that like if you're an employee, make yourself as valuable as humanly possible so that they can't imagine operating without you. And if you're an employer, work on your systems and your ability to train or find good trainers so that it doesn't matter who leaves you. Right?
And that's where I'm kind of jealous because like I'm starting marketing agency,
Yeah.
graduated college.
Yeah.
I could go learn like you are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I am learning right now as a business owner, like sales, marketing, operation, all that. But I know I would learn also, if not more, from a mentor, having a mentor, having someone who's
Totally.
been in the business a lot longer, and then go start my own.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I'm kind of playing it risky right now, just right off the bat. So that's
Totally.
where it's like the knowledge you soak right now. I mean, I know you're how young?
I turned 30 just last November.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, baby. So it's like I'm excited to see
Dude, yeah,
where it goes.
it's gonna be an interesting one. And dude, I don't even know how many of the layers we've peeled back, but we're in this weird phase where we're spinning a lot of plates, and like it's funny because you can tell how much I've been consuming like Hormozy and some of the other people the last couple weeks because like I had this epiphany yesterday. You know, we have another golf course that's down south. You've gone there a couple times to go shoot some content and help us out, which is great. And on the drive, like just trying to fill time with books and podcasts and stuff, but like really, I like realized we have this. I'll spare everybody all the details, but we've been working on like it was an app at one point, and now it's like a web app, and that part of us switching to InRange, like they're amazing partners, and they're letting us. They built us an API or let us build one so we could integrate right into their monitors. Basically, if I had to summarize it for like a golfer, because there's like 5 different ways we're trying to figure out how to do it, but from a golfer's perspective, I looked back and like I don't know. Do you play video games?
Used to
Used to? What kind did you used to play?
Call of Duty.
Okay, Call of Duty, right? So, how old are you?
24.
24. It might have been a little. It's weird to say that, but like you might have been a little young for like clan battles or MLG and stuff like that with Call of Duty back in the day.
I had a clan in 7th grade.
Totally. Did you guys do actual like clan battles and stuff?
We'd like
Yeah,
a little bit, but nothing
because
crazy.
there used to be like websites, right? And so when I got into PC gaming, it was like Counter Strike and stuff, and those still exist. There's these like third party places for Counter Strike. I'll keep that example, like Faceit and ESEA, where you play competitive matches, but it's not like the normal matchmaking in the game. So you're using like this third party client. They're supposed to have better anti cheat. People pay a subscription to be a part of it. So the idea is it's probably better players you're playing against. It's where like pros and semi pros practice all of it, right? All of that to say is like I looked at that and I was like, well, what if like I saw the man, I forgot the term, but somebody used it and it made total sense. I think of like Words with Friends. Like you can play against people from anywhere.
Right.
So like that idea
Xbox
merged
Live?
with the third no,
No.
not that. It's
Okay,
like
yeah.
asynchronous game or something.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
I don't think it's asynchronous, but something about like not having a location tied to your ability to compete or play with or play against people, right? So like Xbox Live sort of like that. You need an Xbox, you need a TV, and you need internet, and you can do it, right? Whereas you go another layer, and I started thinking about like Words with Friends. I could take my turn, it sends you a notification, and when you get to it, and it passes it to me. And then I started to look at like these tech ranges, and I was like, dude, I have friends all over. We have multiple courses that like have this. And so I started to think, and I was going to try to do this with like a Discord channel and like do all this manual work. And I think if I didn't have this job, I would have had to go like all in and figure it out. But I just had this thought like, what if people could play, Pebble Beach on Top Tracer, which is what we used to have, and now InRange, which, has just as many amazing courses. And if I could play it and like send you a challenge because you live some other part of the country that has an in range.
sick.
You know what I mean? So like
sick.
that was my original thought around it. And then when we started to talk more, we were like, all right, well, think of like Dave and Buster's or somewhere where, okay, well now you could play in these events or play these games, and how do we give people rewards and credit? Now we're talking like a marketplace. So this is kind of just a big long rant, but like that's one of the projects to bring it all back. I realize for some reason like this is just software as a service.
Yeah.
Like we're sitting there thinking like, who do we target? Do we target the golfers themselves? Do we target other ranges and try to make money off of them by like saying, hey, we'll host tournaments for you, which is like what Golf Genius does for green grass golf. And I don't think there's like a right or a wrong one. I think it's, I try to look at it like which one has the most people, like the most opportunities. And then we just have to figure out the messaging part.
I mean,
Right.
imagine a SAS play with from a local golf course
Dude, that's
and
pretty much,
with a
yeah.
massive exit and like
That's,
that's
you know,
insane.
that's literally what we're trying to figure out.
I mean, yeah, that's
Yeah,
nuts.
yeah.
That'd
And I
be
said, dude, I said that today to Joe. I was like, you know, you're not going to know what this means. You're going to make fun of me because it's a buzzword and you hate those. But we're software as a service. And our sales guy, Matt, who's great, he like laughed and he's like, oh, what? I was like, yeah, man, we're selling software as like a service.
yeah.
I was like, you guys keep talking about these like pitching ranges on why they should let us run events on their screens and a revenue split and all this stuff. And I was like, that sounds like a headache. What if we just make it, and I'll die on this hill, that like if I could control it, and I don't. So this is me. I speak this way because this is how my relationship with Joe, our owner, is. But if it was me and I had a timeline to try and give it the real good old college try,
Oh yeah.
I would just basically message the crap out of you can earn while you're practicing. Because like what, there's 41
Yep.
bays and at least 20, 25 of them are full. At least half of those people, if not more, are using in range. And so if I set up like a long drive and a close to the pin game mode where you go play and it's free to sign up because you're trying it, you could win Smash Cash, is what we call it. That you can redeem on our website for good gift cards, for Callaway gift cards, for a code that gives you a bucket at our machine. Like that's everything we have that exists, but we've done zero messaging about it.
Why?
So because we're fucking distracted. Because I have
I
this job. He owns a company that manages
who
4 or 5 other courses. You know what I mean?
whose ear should I get in? Because
Huh?
that is whose ear should like that is genius.
Yeah.
Like first off, every guy's dream is to make money playing golf. And if they
Yeah.
could do that, just hitting balls, hitting shanks or whatever
Yeah.
on the range, like
Dude.
I
and
would
this is
push
it, right?
I would push that before some other course like tries to like, and
Totally.
obviously no one's gonna
Yep.
steal it because they don't know everything that goes behind it, but
For
like
sure.
push that.
Well, so here's the interesting thing because you said it, and
Like
for context,
let's get Joe on here.
I
And,
talked about college. It took me like 6 different tries at a different major to pick one. I ended up with comm, and I ended up loving it, even though it was the really easy major. But you said a word that I think is important. You said anyone would kill, like guys all just want to win money.
yeah,
But I am an advocate that like my own competitiveness aside, the word win is kind of polarizing. So if I tell a golfer, hey man, you could win this, I think I'm immediately turning some percent of them off because they're like, well, I suck. I'll never win. That's actually a lot of the
fair.
messaging we're doing is that, hey, we have these contests. We'll flight them like a normal golf thing. So you're playing against people that are
But-
your own skill level and you can win prizes.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what has halted momentum is that you talk about win, 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 and whether right or wrong, like people
earn. I like earn.
right.
Earn
And
like you could earn.
totally. And
Yeah.
that's and I think again, it's just another thing I'm stealing from like the video game world. Like think of all of the mobile apps that own
Yep.
everybody. They have these like weird community things where it's like if everybody completes 1,000,000 missions in this week, all of you get some weird credit that has no actual monetary value. It's just like a free life. So that if you die, so like taking those ideas and like I kind of want to mobile game the tech range space.
I do it. I
Right.
like that is absolutely genius. I
Right.
mean, and yeah, imagine like you're married and you have an actual excuse to go to the range now because
Dude.
you could make some money.
For sure.
Hey,
That's
I'm trying to feed the fam.
dude, that's well, and it's like really when you get to like the economics of it, you look at it that like, hey, you can just.
It's
I think
attention.
there will be some people that just there's the attention play, so
It's-
now there's new
it's-
advertising.
Yes, it's all.
But I
attention.
also think the like, because I'm trying to figure out who would the early adopters be. I think it's very price conscious people that are willing to say like, all right, if the guaranteed payout is like $1 worth of credit, Dobson's my home course, and they have a large bucket listed on there, which is normally $22. It's listed for $17 in credit, and I get $1 of credit every time I play. So that means I'm basically my overall net cost of a bucket is blank. Like I think there's people that will do some rough math like that.
It's not a matter of if, it's when.
Totally.
This is gonna happen.
Yeah, we've talked about
Like,
too.
this-
Like we should put a bug in there where it like triples the payment, and then someone makes a video and is like, oh my God, look at this broken thing. Like you go right now and like it makes a bunch of people try it. And then we're like, oh, we fixed it. But
Hopefully
now
the
they've
right
all been hooked.
hopefully the right guy, yeah, the right guy gets the bug.
Right.
That would
But
suck if it was
yeah,
if it was like someone who
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
care.
But no, man. And I think, but to use all of that to make like a segue too, like it's been very interesting. Like, because I never actually listened to like the game. I never listened to his actual podcast much.
Yeah.
And I have been a lot more on those
It's
drives.
just his YouTube videos.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
It's like
The
the game
audio from it.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
But like hearing more of his ones that are coming out of what I'm assuming are his workshops, where he's just like answering people's questions. He said it a few times about like the noob entrepreneur or like the serial entrepreneurs that are like, I got 5 things, and it's exactly how I feel because I've got a real job with a real business that makes real money and a team that I'm responsible for and all this stuff. And we all have like day jobs, right?
Yes.
Or we have some investment in this massive business that's already doing well, and none of us have figured out how to like exit from like a responsibility side to like really focus on this. So it's almost like it's in the back seat, no one's focusing,
If
you
it's
know.
that big of a play, and it is as a SaaS play, why not? And you guys are crushing it. Why not? Yeah, like take a hit, fill one extra position, pay an extra salary,
Yeah,
and just so that way you could dedicate all your time, or that person could dedicate all their time to being the first to market with this.
dude, this is a great question. Yeah, I don't know. I think part of it and stuff because it isn't 100% my decision. I've put no money into it. I've just been along for the ride kind of thing.
Yeah, I feel
But
like it's
yeah,
how you pitch it. It's how you frame it. Like
totally.
I
And
used,
I
yeah,
and I think if I didn't have like a young kid at home now, you know, if this would have happened to us like in the beginning of Dobson, not like 3 or 4 years into it as life developed, like I personally don't want to sacrifice like this is already paying bills and doing a lot for us.
of course.
So I don't want to sacrifice this job. I can't afford to burn the candle at both ends anymore
Yeah,
than I am to go do another thing. So I've kind of lost that chance
at least
that a
it's
lot of young people do.
but
But
but at least it's cohesive. It's not like
totally.
it's you're starting a spaghetti company and then doing golf. Like it's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? It's kind of
Totally. Totally.
adjacent.
I think I think it is one of those things where and I talked about how many plates we have spinning. I mean, behind the camera here, we're staring at a construction site where we learned that you cannot put like a food and beverage trailer on top of pavers. So we have to pour real concrete there now. So we have this whole project that's coming. The other golf course, they're just finishing their 20 bays that are like this. That's why I was there yesterday. But the nice thing is there's light at the end of all those tunnels. So, you know, it's really just a matter of like, all right, when that's done and these things are done, other than my normal responsibilities, like this is all I'm going to do. And I think that's just where it is.
Focus.
Yeah. Dude,
It's
who
so
knows? This
hard.
could be the conversation that I'm just looking in the mirror like, I'm waiting for someone to tell me to go and I should just go.
I hope to be that guy.
Dude,
I
I'm in.
genuinely, my buddy, a friend of mine, like 2 months ago we talked, and I told him to start his own like AI implementation company, helping like home service businesses implement AI to grow instead of referrals and all that. And he started it, and now he's
Dude,
crushing it. So it's
that's
like
epic.
it's just sometimes it's just nice to have that one push from like an outside
Dude,
like
it's just get up
source.
and go.
Just it's so like
Yeah.
I right now I'm the marketing company consulting. That's how I make my money.
Yeah.
I'm starting that business from scratch. Don't know, learning everything, watching many YouTube videos. I've invested
Mhm.
in coaching, and then doing the golf community
Mhm.
out on the side. So it feels like I'm growing two things at once. And you got like you add a third thing, you're done, you're toast. So
Yeah.
I get it. It's
Dude,
tough
for
to like
sure.
which do you pick in the opportunity cost of each. But
Yeah, yeah.
how do you like when you come to decisions like that? Obviously, when you have a family, that adds another complexity level.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's your friends, social life.
Hmm.
You're still 30. Like, how do you balance all that, or do you kind of sacrifice and let your friends or family know, like, hey, I'm not. What do you believe in balance? I guess is what I'm saying, or do you
Um,
think it's kind of like a myth? Like you just got to go
totally.
balls to the wall.
Yeah, I think balance is like a funny word because I think when you hear balance, you're thinking like 50-50, 25-25, 25-25. Like there's this inherent like a lot of people and myself included when I hear balance, it's like this even split to a degree. Um, but I've since learned and thought about it like, hey, it's less about having like an even split and more just about like a clear understanding, right? Like back to the calm, the love for communication and like the fixation I probably have on it. Like right now, actually, with as busy as we are and the chaos of having a 17-month-old and all this awesome stuff, like this is probably one of the best rhythms we've been in, my wife and I, from like a life perspective, because all of the like tougher times, which when we looked back, it was like, hey, I didn't communicate what I have to go do at work or like the times and whatever. And part of that's because I'm not a huge planner. So I was like, I don't want to talk about that. I want to just hang out.
Yeah.
And so as we've just learned to like have better communication about things and really just like clarity around it, it really is like her love language is quality time. I think most women are, right? Like
Yeah.
that's kind of the running joke if you've read that
And
book.
you guys are
But
physical touch.
right, I don't even know what mine is, but like for her, the thing that we realize is I thought, all right, quality time just means like amount of time,
Yeah.
but really the quality is the first word for a reason. So we realized that like, hey, 30 minutes of us sitting down eating breakfast before I go to work, no phones, talking, like feeding the baby together, like making actual breakfast, don't just pick something up, whatever it is, it does so much to like fill her love tank. And like that time is worth more than 2 hours at night, like watching a show where
Yep.
one of us might be half working, the other one falls asleep. Like, so that took a long time for us to realize, because I was sitting here like, what do you mean we don't spend enough time together? Like, this was a long time ago when we were dating. It's like, what do you mean we watch TV every night for like 2 hours? And she's like, that doesn't count. And I'm like, why are we doing it then?
Yeah.
Like, shoot, if we got to just talk, then let's talk. Like,
Yep.
I thought this counted. Again, I thought it was
You're
like
like, yeah.
a game. Um, but yeah,
I
so like for
yeah.
making those decisions, lately there haven't been a ton of huge decisions like that. But when it is time to make those decisions, I mean, we've been able to find way more clarity. We'll take time and pray about it on our own. We'll pray about it together. And then really we'll just talk through it. Like I've always had this innate, like I am a worst case scenario guy. Like it's easy for me to go there.
Sure.
And so that's the easy part is I've explained that to her is like, all right, well, I look at like worst case scenario. If this is all goes wrong or we make the wrong decision, like we still have a home, we could probably go find a normal job to pay like the basic bills, and then we'll figure the rest out. That'll buy us time. So like her understanding that that's how I think of it lets us make like faster decisions and stuff like that.
It,
If
it's
that
like,
kind of makes sense.
yeah, it's like the quote where like the grass isn't greener on the other side, it's greener where you water it.
Totally.
Like if you're, you know, putting an effort and time, and that's funny because I don't have a girl
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
remember back in the day, it's like, yeah, it's like a game. It's like, oh, but this that counted, Netflix and
Yeah. Well, to use
all
golf, man, if you've played
if you're
a lot of high end golf courses, anyways, they don't overseed. So the grass might be greener, but it's because they painted it.
that's deep.
Like the grass is
That's
really
deep.
asleep under there. They just took some paint and put it over it. By the
Yep.
time you walk up, it's like the paint's worn off and
And then
you see it for what it is.
you get home and yeah, your club's all green.
Yep. Yep. So
That's the worst. What would you say is like, just from working in the workforce, training everybody here, you know, being at that high level position, what's one thing you wish you knew earlier? Just
dude,
one.
I still don't even know how to do it. I think I wish I knew better how to actually balance, like, because I feel like I did a very good job of training when I had a great, like, training rubric, right? An outline and a plan. Whenever that plan gets derailed, I feel like my training isn't on, which makes sense. I feel like the standards that they get laid out for the person on the team are not great. And then I end up, if I don't revisit it and fix that, now I'm playing this game of catch up. I really struggle with balancing like that, finding the good things to reward and to praise instead of like, hey man, like don't do it that way, do this. Or hey, could you do more of this? Because I'm so matter of fact personally that like I would love that. I look at it like someone's giving me the answers to the test, but not a lot of people look at it that way. So I really wish I could figure out, and I'm working on how do you like course correct little bit by little bit, because I tend to rubber band like to one end of the spectrum or the other, where I'll either say like, all right, well I'm gonna let you sink or swim, and you're gonna ask for help when it hurts,
Yeah.
or I like see the train coming down the tracks because I've been in their shoes so many times. Like I'll use pace of play.
Yeah.
We have different parts of the golf course where we measure like a 4-hole time, a turn time, and a finish time. And you could pretty much give me those three numbers on a day, and I could tell you if there's a problem and where it is because I've had to do it a lot. But like, I'll just overhear certain things like we're behind on the tee or this and that and the other, and I'll know like right where they should go. And so I had this question of like, do I tell them, hey, go here and look and talk to these people? Or do I like let them problem solve? And then if I let them problem solve and they're wrong, how do I soften it enough so that it's like, hey, like good idea, but don't? Or do I just let them like waste an hour going to the wrong part of the golf course, doing the wrong things? The whole day is wrecked. And I think I just have to get more comfortable with that because
Sure.
what is different now with me being like a hands-on person trying to train a team. When I did it, there was nobody else here, so I was having to call outward for help. And so it was like, hey, if it was a bad day, it was a bad day, and I was at peace with it. And we
Yeah.
woke up the next day, and there was still a full tee sheet, and like I got another chance. Where like I haven't really learned to let go of some of that. So I'm sitting here like it feels irresponsible to let the day go bad,
Sure.
but then it's also irresponsible fixing it for them because they don't get a chance to grow.
Yeah. Well, I think it's not like don't be afraid of being confrontational. Like it's the Hermosi talked about, like be kind, not nice.
Totally.
Or it's like if you don't course correct them or help, them understand, it's like you're just kind of not doing them a service versus risking them have be a little upset or, oh, you're a dick boss
Totally.
a little, but then like,
Totally.
that now they learn for life.
Well, and the toughest part is like most of the lessons I learned was like this was the feedback loop. Work in the moment, try to call somebody. If I couldn't get somebody who knew better, I like had to just make a decision and then live with it. So like every time I made a poor decision or not the best or a bad decision, it was like a kid touching the stove. Like I had to feel that pain, and the pain was so much that I didn't want to do it again. So the next time I would try something different, and then I would like rap out with the person later, like, hey, you called me earlier, what's up? And I was like, here's why I called, here's what I did, here's what happened. And they're like, oh yeah, you probably should have done this. But at least the next time I had their answers.
Right.
So when it came around, I knew better what to do. Where I feel like, and all of this could be just me overanalyzing it too, where like unless they like make the decision, have a sense of ownership, feel the pain that comes from it, and then I'm there to be like, hey man, it's okay, like let's try this next time,
Yeah.
and then wait for the next time to come. Like I struggle with something in between where it's like, hey, this is about to happen, you're about to make this decision, do this instead. Because if they do what I say and it works, they never actually felt the pain. They're like, well, was my idea
Right.
bad, or is it just that he wants to do it his way?
Right.
That's what it feels like I run into.
Well, I'm excited overall, like I said earlier, just to see, what you continue to grow and turn into, because you don't, like, it's so easy to be complacent. You give a guy a consistent paycheck, roof over his head, your girl, like, you could just chill. You could just vibe and coast. But it sounds like just from, our conversations now and prior to this, like, you're always, like, forward thinking, how can we make it better? What can we optimize? Like, watching videos. You don't have to do that. You could go watch video, do it, like, yeah, I'm excited to see what comes out of it.
Well, I appreciate it, man. It is definitely like a never-ending thing, but I think that's the fun of it.
Yeah,
right.
well,
Is
building,
like,
just building things.
yeah, because I think even still, there's moments where I'd be like, dude, it'd be nice to just be able to hop on the computer and go back to gaming, or to just sleep in, or to do these things. And I sleep in plenty on a lot of or make dumb decisions and stay up later than I should a lot still, but it's at least knowing that like, hey, cool, the like tiredness tomorrow, that's my fault. Like I did it. When you really start to like take the ownership for your decisions and stuff, like that was probably one of the biggest shifts. You talked about it earlier, and we talk about it internally. Like when people come to us and inevitably say, hey, I want to make more, I want to be more responsible, or this and that, we're like, all right, like, do you really understand what you're asking for? Like you're asking to shift from like the employee mindset to one of like an owner.
Yeah.
And the people that it works out for in the longer term can make that switch, where you look at it like it's yours. You pick up trash when you walk by, you do the little things. And the people who are like, oh, like, cool, I just got a promotion, a bigger pay, or I got put on salary or a performance plan or whatever.
Right.
If you see that as like your finish line, like you're toast.
It's a totally different mindset. It's a
Yeah.
totally different mindset. Yeah. It's, yeah. So I worked at Biltmore. You don't know this story. I went and, my first job was McDonald's 16.
Okay.
And then whatever, graduated after GCU. I was going to film content at the Biltmore, Arizona Biltmore. So I was like, oh, I'll get a pro shop job.
Yeah.
This was my fault. And not a good look on my end. But I worked in the pro shop for one day.
Yeah.
Standing there for like 8 hours. I'm like, I can't do this.
Dude. It's okay. Hey, when I was at the ice cream sandwich place, dude, you're not alone. I had a guy literally walk out 30 minutes into training. Same exact thing. He looked at me, he goes, bro, I can't do it. Like so the training there was like you sit down, go through core values, walk them through customer experience. So the name of the company is Baked Bear. It's awesome. It's
Yeah.
still probably the best cookies, and their ice cream was really good. And you make a custom ice cream sandwich. So it's like Subway, where you start, you tell them what you want, and they go piece by piece.
Right.
So we would walk them through like the customer side, even if they knew it or whatever. We went through the motions. And then I was like, all right, man, the next part is like, we're going to go over all the buttons on the point of sale. And he literally takes the uniform shirt off, has his street clothes on underneath still. And he goes, yeah, man, I can't do this. And he hands
Oh.
it back. And I looked at the owners, I was like, what do I do? They were like, let's go to lunch. So I was like, that was my whole shift for the day, was supposed to be training that guy. So
Training.
when he walked out, I was like, what do you guys want me to do? They were like,
Yeah.
you're good, dude. We'll still pay you. Let's go to lunch. And it ended up being great conversation. But that was my first, like, from that other side, I was like, oh shit. I was like, did I do something wrong? Like,
No, yeah, no. It's
it's
like
funny.
it's different. Like you're a manager, you're in management position. You've earned your way up.
Mhm.
For me, I was like the bottom of the bottom, but like it was like a high school job.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just graduated school. I can't do this. Like
Yeah.
even if it is free golf, like I just
Yeah.
can't. Like
Dude, well, it goes,
so,
you probably experienced it for that one day. Like, dude, they pay awful in golf.
oh,
You know, talk about like the motivation thing you said. Like, one of the things we try to do that's very different is like we have the players cards and all these other things, and like we try and put performance plans, or like we'll pay the golf shop commissions and stuff like
that's
that.
sick.
So they have a chance. Every single players card they make, they get a piece.
That's so sick.
But it's because, and I recognize that about myself. So it was funny in the beginning. I was like, hey, if I don't have goals and like some incentive plan that I could like do something, like I can tell you guys, I'm going to get complacent. If my paycheck just is what it is, like I am scared that I'm going to struggle. And so they were like, all right. And so like we put things together, and yeah, it's fun when you get like, when you have an employer that's willing to say like, cool, like you can take less base pay for more upside, or you can take more base pay for a much smaller upside. And like, it was interesting learning that as an employee, because right before you reached out to me, I was just coming off of like the end. Part of what we do too is we've owned golf courses. We don't own any right now. We manage them. So like all the ones we do operate, we're just like a management group for either a municipality or a private owner. And then we do like consulting. They've done like expert witness stuff. And so I got to do like my first real consulting contract. So it was crazy to see that deal get structured. It was predominantly on upside, and then to see like how well that ended up going.
Yeah.
But it makes total sense. Like, I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs talk about it that way. Like,
How winners think.
yeah, exactly.
Interesting.